Welcome to the Healthy Living Revolution Live. My name is Reagan Dean. The Healthy Living Revolution is a movement of people who are taking healthy back, and we're offering this series to bring some simple solutions and simple education. Our speaker for this episode is Liza Pepple. Liza graduated with a degree in chemical engineering from Clemson University in 2002, and she worked in agriculture and food before she began working at Juice Plus. She is the quality manager for Juice Plus product line, and she also was in product management and development roles for the company. She is now the director of product innovation and is responsible for the development of the newest member of the Juice Plus family of products, the Juice Plus Omega Blend. So Liza, thank you so much for being with us today. I'm super excited to ask you some questions that often come up about what makes Juice Plus products such high quality and why people will want to add them to their nutrition regime. So thank you for being here.
It's my pleasure, certainly. I'm always happy to help educate people on Juice Plus and what makes it so special. It's amazing. So I love to talk about it.
Well, great. Well, a lot of people confuse Juice Plus with a vitamin supplement, and yet really they're not even close to being the same thing. What makes Juice Plus different, and why does Juice Plus carry a nutrition facts label instead of a typical vitamin supplement facts label?
So what makes Juice Plus really different from vitamins out there is the fact that we are whole food based. We have our products coming straight from fruits and vegetables, and all we do is just squish them up and then take out the water, and that's what's in our products. We are in the vitamin supplement world. They do a lot of extracting of different nutrients, either, vitamin C or vitamin A, and it may start as whole food. It may start as fruits and vegetables, but by the time they're finished with it, there's all kinds of residual solvents that are possible, and they're isolated nutrients that have been shown in clinical studies most recently to really not benefit the body the same way that whole food does. And it's really important for us to have a nutrition label, at least right now, because it really shows how different we are. New food in the United States is categorized as different than supplements, and we categorize ourselves as a food, and the FDA has audited our facilities and has never had a problem with our food label. Up to this point, I'm not saying that they won't ever, but up to this point, they have never had a problem with our food label. And that's because our products really do come from foods, and we don't do very much at all to change their nature.
That's great. Well, the next question that comes up when we say we're food is, well, how did we fit 30 different fruits and vegetables into those little capsules?
Yeah, so actually I saw a great post on Facebook a little while ago from somebody who was dehydrating fruits and vegetables, and they showed their dehydrator before they turned it on with whole slices of fruits and vegetables in it, and then after it was completed, and it shrunk by more than 4, 5, 6, 10 times, and then you turn that dehydrated fruit into a powder and it shrinks even more. So we call it dry down ratios in the engineering side of things, on the manufacturing side, but dry down ratios can be 10, 15 times what the original fruit is. So if you take an apple and divide it by 15 times, then that's the amount of powder that we need, which is very small.
Right, and so then they're combined. And can you tell us a little bit more about how we combine those and come up with the recipe?
Yeah, so we don't just take apples alone. Obviously, we have a whole lot of fruits and vegetables and berries and grapes that go into our products. So the other thing that we're able to do is work with the fruits and vegetables themselves to be able to optimize the blends. So we can add fruits together that may have challenges, add them together with challenges in drying, that add them together with other fruits that are easier to dry, and that helps us to be able to dry down without the use of what's called excipients. And these are kind of filler ingredients that most companies use in their drying processes that make it easier to dry and that make the fruits and vegetables that they're drying more stable long term. And we've figured out with our drying partners how to do that without the use of these excipients. So it allows us a whole lot more room in the powder itself for the whole fruits and vegetables and berries and grapes.
That is fantastic. Well, the next question that comes up with that concentrating is it organic? And can you explain the difference between organic and NSF certified produce?
Sure. So organic is a great term. The way that people produce organic produce is fantastic. We actually produce our produce the same way. We use organic principles on our farms, and it allows our produce to grow in a very natural and unchallenged way. But organic is really just a paper certification, and it's very expensive. And we've been working with our growers for, the 27 plus years that Juice Plus has been around, actually 25 on the market, but we've been working with them for about 27 years, most of them. And they understand who we are as a company, what we need from a quality produce, and they're able to do that without necessarily going out and spending the extra money that they might not have to get a certification. NSF, the certification that we have with NSF, actually allows us to go back and check to make sure that there aren't any contaminants of any kind in our products. So where organic certification is essentially a paper trail that says that they're not using any forbidden chemicals on their fields or on their produce, NSF certification actually tests for those things at the end. So if we say that our produce or our products don't contain contaminants and don't contain GMOs and don't contain pesticides, NSF can test for those and does consistently on every product that we have to ensure that what we're saying about the product is actually true and that there are no harmful contaminants in Juice Plus products at all.
Right. So Juice Plus is tested for all kinds of different things. And I know that there's hundreds and hundreds of compounds that we test for.
Yes.
Will you share a little bit more about what we test for and how many compounds?
Yes. So what people don't always appreciate is that different things are allowed on different produce. So what you are allowed to spray on apples, even conventional apples, is different than what you're allowed to spray on broccoli. So what we have to do is test for all the possible things, but in different ways. So if we know that there's a possibility that this farmer may have sprayed something onto their produce because they grow broccoli, then we'll focus the tests on those compounds more than we will on the apple compounds for broccoli, because that's not possible. Essentially, they don't work for those things. So, but we do have to test for everything because we have such a wide variety of produce in our products. So we actually test the seeds, we test the soil, we test the irrigation water if it's not rain, essentially. We test the plants themselves when they start to grow. We test them after they're harvested, and we test them once they're turned into a powder. And we test for things like nutrient contents and confirmation of the varieties of fruits and vegetables that we're using. We actually work with our growers to identify the most nutritious varieties of fruits and vegetables, and we want to make sure that what we're getting is in fact those varieties. So we also test for pesticides and heavy metals. We test for microbiological contaminants like salmonella and E. coli, yeasts and molds. And we test for all of those things in different places throughout the whole supply chain to ensure that we don't have any problems with our finished product, and that we will never have any problems with anything in our supply chain. In fact, I love this story because when we first started talking to NSF about their certification, they actually came to us and said, you don't have to test as much as you do. You don't have to test in all these places. You really just have to test the finished product to make sure that it conforms to all of these requirements. And we said, look, if we just test the finished product and it fails, we have no idea where in the supply chain it failed. So we can't go back and fix that problem. And by the time it gets to the end, it's much more expensive than it was if you can fix a single ingredient problem at the beginning. So throughout the years, we've worked with our growers and tested everything. And we know we can identify with our growers when they start to have problems in their fields, and they can actually address them before they become a massive issue. And our growers love that. Our manufacturers, we do the same thing with our manufacturers, and they love that. So it really helps everybody in our supply chain to test as much as we do. Even if NSF didn't get it at first, they certainly get it now.
I hear you say our growers. So we explain who our growers are. I know you're really passionate about our farmers.
Yeah, that is certainly something I'm very passionate about. I absolutely love our growers. They're amazing people, and they're just wonderful people to be around. They absolutely get what we do, why we do it, and they love to be a part of our journey. So it's fantastic to work with them. They're small to medium-sized family farmers who've been around agriculture for most of the time, generations. I'd like to talk about our orange growers. They're fifth and seventh, or third and fifth generation, I believe, or fifth and seventh. I can never remember which one it is, but it's a grandson and grandfather who really manage the farms now. And the grandson actually also works with one of our drying processors. So he gets to see, his produce being grown and then also being turned into a powder for Juice Plus. And he's also a Juice Plus distributor as well. So it helps.
That's a lot.
Always, right. And that's why I love our growers, is because they get it. They absolutely get what we do, and they love our products as much as we do. And they are trying to improve always to help us improve our products. They're just amazing people. And you can actually see them telling their own stories, or several of them telling their own stories on some of the Juice Plus YouTube channel videos. There's a section on the Juice Plus YouTube channel that's Farm Fresh Nutrition, and you can actually see some of our growers telling their own stories, and it's just amazing.
And are those growers mostly in the US or around the world, or?
Yes, right now we've got quite a number of our growers in North America. The US and Canada is where the vast majority of our produce comes from right now. We've been really working to bring more local produce for every region. So where we will always get the vast majority, if not all, of the ingredients for the US and Canadian products from North America, we're actually working really hard right now to find growers that meet our qualifications in Europe and identify some drier partners that can build some facilities for us in Europe, so that the Europeans can have local European produce grown and dried there, and it's already encapsulated there as well. So we're really focused not only on having the best farmers, but also treating the environment in the best way that we know how, and staying more local is definitely a piece of that puzzle long term.
And those growers, I know that for you to pick them as a Juice Plus grower, they have to go through a pretty rigorous process, right? Not everybody can just be a grower.
That's very true. Yeah, they have to exhibit that they understand what we need and that they're willing to do everything that we ask of them. One of the biggest challenges is that growers tend to want to kind of keep things themselves. They want to keep, something, if they feel like something is proprietary, if they're doing something unique on their farms, they don't really want to share those things with people always. So we really kind of force that issue. If you are a grower for Juice Plus, your farm is our farm. And our products are your products. It really is a family kind of collaboration. So finding those people that are willing to let us come and test everything, who are willing to open their books up and show us what they've done in the last 10 years. People who are able to keep track of what they've done for the last 10 years, everything that has gone onto their fields, what crops they've grown, what varieties of which crops they've grown. It's really quite a long process to identify people and then to educate them on the Juice Plus products and make sure that they understand the mission before they start growing with us.
That is so fantastic. Well, speaking of unique ways, I know that bugs and birds and pests, they also love high quality produce as much or more than we do. Mm-hmm. And I know that sometimes we have to use, unique things that will help to, retard some of those pests or whatever. So what kind of things do we use in place of some of the other chemicals and things that other people use?
Yeah, so that's absolutely true. Bugs and rodents and pests certainly love great high quality produce, and it's often very difficult. That's one of the most difficult things to account for in growing, is what pest is going to become the biggest issue for the crop this year. So there's a lot of things that people can do. We at Juice Plus, our growers will use things like pheromone traps. And these are like boxes that contain pheromones for particular insects. And essentially what it does is it confuses the insect into either going towards a trap and getting caught in the trap, or most of the time the pheromone traps are actually there to help confuse the insects so they don't even come into the area. So it's really unique. You can use things, some of our growers use things like essential oils around certain regions. They do co-planting. So there's a lot of different plants that repel insects or certain rodents. So they'll plant, for example, marigolds around the outside of the field, and that repels quite a number of insects. And it's all about, depending on which produce you're talking about and what type of pest you're looking at. But we use as natural processes to keep the pests out and to remove them once they're there that we possibly can.
That is fantastic. And what about water? Because I know water, we use a unique watering system on our farms.
For quite a number of our farms, and when they need to use irrigation water. Most of our farms are actually naturally irrigated, which means that they get their irrigation water from rain, and they don't need to use any outside sources. But when we do, especially if there's areas which are in drought, or if there's times of year where there's a drought in a region, our growers actually have started using a process called drip irrigation. And essentially what that means is they put kind of the line around the plants, and it puts water just directly onto the plant roots, so that the roots get the water that they need, the soil gets the water that it needs, and it's not wasting water by spraying large quantities into the air and having most of it evaporate before it hits the plants, or actually attach to the plant's leaves and burn the leaves. Sometimes you can have that happen if you're not careful about when you irrigate. But when we do use irrigation water, by the way, we do make sure that the growers will test the irrigation water to ensure that it doesn't contain any contaminants like heavy metals or plastic residues or anything like that, so that we know that what's being sprayed onto or put onto our fields is not going to create any issues.
Thank you so much for all of this amazing information. And for me, it makes me just feel even more excited to share it with other people, because gosh, it's really hard to be healthy out there these days with all of the boxed and packaged and fast foods that seem to come our way in our busy lifestyle. So I'm really glad that we have Juice Plus as a resource to flood our body with all of these amazing plants. So thank you so much for your time today. And for everybody that's listening, we just encourage you to get back with the person who invited you to this webinar to learn more. Thank you again, Liza, and thank you all for joining us.